a real honor for me. I usually don't do late podcasts, but like I'm doing it because of our guest tonight. I have with me Gene Decode. He's a former U.S. Navy veteran and literally one of the most widely followed whistleblowers and spiritual analysts in the alternative truth media. Known for his deep dives into deep underground military bases or DUMBs, black ops programs, and spiritual warfare, Gene decodes intel drops, analyzes geopolitics through a biblical lens, and shares downloads from source about ongoing war in light and dark. Gene is also known for maintaining anonymity. He is often represented by the image of a dog, symbolizing loyalty, guardianship, and spiritual protection. His mission is to emphasize sovereignty, spiritual awakening, and multidimensional awareness, while exposing artificial timelines and encouraging connection with divine source. Tonight's topics will be an Antarctica decode, lost civilizations, pyramids, hidden timelines, spiritual layers, chemtrail intel, Operation Indigo Skyfold and the spiritual implications of sky programs, and Planetier exposure, AI control, data sovereignty, and Cabal versus the Alliance. And of course, we'll touch on the dumps because that's what Gene specializes in. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Gene, thank you so much for coming back on. How are you?
Thank you, and thank you for accommodating my time zone. I am a late night person. I have been all my life. Even when I was a little baby, I would climb out of my crib at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. My mother goes, "Oh no, what's the baby into now?" It's like I've always been this way, so I appreciate it now.
Yeah.
Do that, yeah.
I was a big Art Bell fan growing up, So I was always up late too. I just for some reason I don't do podcasts usually, like, but I love this. This has that Art Bell kind of vibe, like late night, and it's kind of fun to do it at night.
I loved Art Bell too, and I caught him all the time because except when, of course, when I was at sea or something on the subway, you don't catch anything out there. But
Yeah.
other than that, when I was shore duty, I caught him all the time, and I recorded a lot of them. I have them on cassette tapes.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, that's cool. You still have them to this day?
Oh yes.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah. There's a guy, he's in the audience now. He has a cool Rumble channel. His name's All Things Art Bell. And he puts together compilations. He'll do like 10-hour Art Bell compilations and stuff. I
Wow.
always listen to them going, yeah, he has an awesome channel. I always support him because he's a cool dude. Anyway, so Gene, for the people that might not have saw like our podcast we've done together and the ones you other done, can you tell people a little bit about yourself besides what I um, wrote in your bio, and to give people a little bit of background before we get into tonight's topics?
Sure. So, the things that define me, I guess, is that I've done martial arts since 1976, first black belt in 87. That's what Special Forces, by the way, not dojo martial arts. Then I had a better instructor later on, even than the top SEAL on earth, if you can imagine that. Then I that got my second and third black belts in two different more styles, although the styles they have really aren't what they say they are. You go somewhere else, and that isn't it because it's real hand-to-hand combat stuff. So it defined who I am. But it did accommodate a situation in where I got attacked in Kapiolani Park and got both knees dislocated, but defeated the Samoan guy upside down in a trash container, and then crawled over to my car and relocated my knees on my using my car door. And then the next day, I usually get healed fairly well within 24 hours back then. So we went up on Tantalus Drive with my best student who just got back from Japan, and he brought a brand new sword with him, and he wanted to see how to do sword moves. And we were up in the bamboo rainforest up there. Bamboo forest, it's not really a rainforest, but it's rainy all the time, and quite often in Hawaii. But this is in Oahu. And so up on Tantalus Drive, and we were up there, and I was doing what's called a deep pass, where you go down one side with a sword, you switch over, and you're in a deep, what's called a Zenkusa stance. And it was coming as I shifted so come down my right side, my right leg was up higher on a hill, and my leg started to come dislocate again. So I stopped the shift. And of course, that half my brain's, stop, your knee's coming apart. The other part's, you're coming down full speed with a sword at your knee. And so I ki'd, and it actually bent the sword, but it cut just through the skin, and my chi bent the sword and bounced it off my chi. and it ruined his brand new sword. I apologized to him and I had him take the lashing apart, and I came down, lashed it shut, came down, and it was the closing day of the Olympics. This was 1992. So you can tell the exact day this is. And so I cleaned it all up, got home, was watching the Olympics, and then it was throbbing like mad. And another student had brought a Korean comforter back, and so I had it wrapped around my leg. And my fiance at the time said, "Why is it? Because it's warm in Hawaii. Usually sit there in shorts or something." I go, "Because it makes it not hurt." Meaning, well, she went and got a big, huge arm load of laundry out of the dryer and dropped it on my leg, and it made a glancing blow, and it ripped it wide open. So I jumped up and yelling and lost control of my mind to control the bleeding that I had done for all that time. I am able, through my martial arts instruction, to control bleeding, even arterial bleeding. So, like when we get jabbed every 6 months in the knee for physical, and they'll miss the vein, I go, "Don't pull it out, I'll bring the blood to it." And then as soon as they pull it out, I stop the bleeding. They go, "How do you do that?" I go, "Martial arts." So the real thing is, that's the gift of the real thing. But, the bottom line is I went into the bathroom hopping on one leg. As I was coming out, I went in because I was going into shock. So I lost control of everything. And then as coming out, I suddenly, I don't, as far as I know, 1 minute I'm hopping out and going to tell my friend to get his truck, which is about a mile away, because you can't park in the private parking for the place we're living. He has to park a mile away. I said, "To get your truck to take me to Tripler." The next thing I know, I was looking down on Earth. So I was like, "What just happened?" So that was, that's my death experience. That's the beginning of it. And that defines me along with martial arts. And then, of course, I also did a little over 21 years in the U.S. Navy submarine force. I've been on 5 different types of submarines. All of them I requalled every time, as a complete qual. You have to qualify in submarines knowing all the systems, drawing them, being able to, give lots of information so you're safe to be in there. And every submarine I was on was not of any of the same class as the other. So if you're on the same, you go from one submarine to another, it's like the same class. You can just requal. But if you're going to a new class, you have to qualify from the get-go again. So all of mine were 2 SSBNs, 2 SSNs, ballistic missile submarines, SSBN, and then my first submarine was a diesel boat, and that was Special Forces, and that was what motivated me to get into martial arts, because I watched what they were doing. We were adopting them in the Bay of Tonkin underwater and picking them up somewhere else underwater, and that impressed, and then watching them work out on the ship impressed me beyond comprehension. That's what I want. I want that. And it changed me, who I am, forever. I wouldn't even be alive today. So many different things. There would be no gene decode without that. It just changed who I am forever. And then, of course, meeting God, that definitely changes you forever. One-on-one with God for about half an hour. When you're non-corporeal, a half an hour is not the same as it is on Earth when you're in the higher densities of heavens. And so it was a massive length of time where a lot of the information I give out now was given to me during that time. And then later on, when I came back and I had, what they call red pill. Of course, that term wasn't invented yet. But in 1990, I became aware of everything because of my submarine service again, that the Cold War was a farce. Because of my high clearance, I became aware of things. And I'm like, I asked the spook on my third submarine, I said, "So what I'm doing here, all this stuff I'm doing that even you won't allow me to talk to the captain about, it means the Cold War is a total farce." And he goes,
Yeah.
"I can't comment on that." I go, "So that's a yes." So he goes, "I know you'll figure things out in time." Because I go, "What are we doing? We're not supposed to be doing this stuff. Submarines are supposed to be quiet. We're not being quiet. We're up in the North Atlantic, the Roaring 30s. They call it the Roaring 30s, where it's just even at deep depths, the ocean's shallow in the Atlantic compared to the Pacific, especially as you get up towards the Arctic. The submarine's rolling and rocking even down at hundreds of feet down. You're like, and I never got seasick. It would be me and the XO of that ship, and everybody else would be either on watch or in their bunk getting sick.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I'm like, and I was, controlling all of this different equipment and stuff. And I go, we're not supposed to be doing this. We're supposed to be quiet. He goes, I can't talk about that. He goes, but you'll figure it out in time. So I have figured all that out. And that's what made me wake up in 1990. And what I found out, it was so horrible that, about the satanic elite and all this stuff, I wanted it to not be true. So I immediately, that day I got off early because our command did really good on an inspection. So we got off at noon, and it was on a Friday. I went straight to the Supreme Court Law Library downtown Honolulu, into the lower areas where you have to have a clearance and they check you. And I got in there, and I spent from Friday afternoon until Sunday, about just before they closed, 10 o'clock, nonstop studying. And, the guy came back on Sunday. He didn't normally work. He works Friday, Monday through Saturday. He goes, what are you doing? I had to come back to see if you're still there. I go, I'm having a nervous breakdown. He goes, why? I go, you don't want to know. I'll tell you what I got. You got to have stuff all over the floor, big, huge, the congressional ledger, the budget, the congressional budget, researching all kinds of things. Like I researched that AIDS, congressional budget, Section 5, 1970 is funding for AIDS, for creation of a disease that would target the human immune system, either T4 or S6. And of course it's T4. And of course that's, and that later was Project Martin Naomi, coming out of Fort Detrick in Maryland, where they gave that $150 million grant to be done as a joint research project. And this is what I mean, by the KGB and the MI6 and the CIA. Like, KGB with the CIA. I was like, yeah, so much for this Cold War stuff and all this. So, and all of that time, it really makes you wait. And so I was wanting it not to be true, but I took my top martial arts students and told them to prove me wrong, and gave them all the materials I had assembled over a month of research that I could show them that was not classified. And they all came back. Many of them had clearances too, and they said, no, it's worse than what you said, because that wasn't what I asked you to do. I want you to prove me wrong. So that's pretty much, how I came. I started back in 1990 trying to wake people up. I'd get up at Kapiolani Park. They had a huge banquets, buffet kind of thing, where you could get food, and they were raising money for cures for AIDS. And I would get up and I said, which one of the 16 that I have found do you want? So it was just like, they were just, thinking I'm crazy, I guess. That's what I always got, eyes roll, and oh my gosh, this guy's crazy. And it's amazing the people that do listen and that do open up doors and things for you. I had a homeless guy that was there every time and would always come up and talk to me after I'd leave the stage at the end, because I'd ask people to come up and talk. And he goes, do you want to meet a guy that was in the Montauk, or in the Philadelphia experiment on the Eldridge? And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so he lived over on the other side of the island. I met the guy. He showed me a picture of himself on the ship. He said, do you have original of the original movie? And I said, yeah. He said, the kind of pinky, orange, yellowish footage is actual footage if you have where it was the original movie. They've since changed it. And I said, yeah. So I looked at his picture, and he said, I'm on the port side on the fantail. And I went immediately after I talked to him, and he said all kinds of stuff. And so then, I looked, and sure enough, that was him. And 2 weeks later, it's how God works. I was coming back from Fort Island, where I worked on the small boat to go to the sub base. And there was a guy I was sitting on the fantail on the port side, strangely enough. There's a guy on the starboard side. It's a small boat. And I looked at him, and, it wasn't the fact that he had no left hand. It was just some vibe I was getting. And he looked at me, he goes, the answer is yes to your question. I go, you're telepathic? And he goes, the answer to that's yes too, but that's not your question. Oh, okay, what's my question? Was I on the Eldridge too? And yes, the answer is yes. That's how I lost my left hand. So, having all of those, that has always happened all my life. Every time I want to know something, it gets verified for me. You got to be careful what you ask for when you ask God for something. It always comes. But sure, you want it to come. So that kind of defines who I am.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you that you got into, like I follow Jessie Zebitar, I like her work, and my friend Michelle does decodes too, and it seems like this whole Luciferian system is all the way from politics down to to, literal Satanists or witches at the top controlling it, then down to like local corruption, police, like do you think that's what it is? I mean, is it a whole network? And obviously they're protecting pedophiles too, it seems like that's a huge thing they do as the pedophiles get to run free. And I want to get into Antarctica and AI and stuff like that, but I wanted to ask you about this first and like how deep does the web of insanity run in your
Yeah,
opinion?
yeah.
Okay.
This is why they can't believe they're losing control. Because when I was researching them in 1990s, they had infiltrated every organization, 40 people and above. And I don't, a church, anything, any little group, you're a member of the Shriners or you have your own little group. They put infiltration in everything. They had people inside, and most of the Congress and Senate, they had blackmail, or they were paying them off or something. They were in control of every government on earth, all of the banking, all of the money. The IRS, of course, was part of their setup with the Fed, and all of that. And it was just, I thought, we're done. And I saw the plans, the FEMA plans, the executive orders signed in way back in the 90s, before the 90s, FEMA camps, and decommissioning recommissioning the decommissioned military bases of FEMA camps. And I saw the timing and everything. I learned the timing. That was supposed to happen a long time ago. So the pandemic was supposed to last for 10 years, and we'll be rolled right into FEMA camps. They'd be called, not camps, but they'd be called safe havens or something for the disease safe or something like that. And so, as I learned all that, I was like, I kept telling people and nobody would, like hardly anybody, 1 out of 100 people would listen. It would be about 1 out of 1,000 people would not roll their eyes and walk away. 1 out of 100 that didn't walk away would actually, listen and learn and research on their own. And even then they would just, I can't do this, there's no hope. And so I kept trying and trying. And then in the just before I became Gene Decode, I was going into New Age, uh, like stores and bookstores and that had little places where they'd have like spiritual meetings and things like that. And I was giving lectures, and the first lecture would be packed, and the second lecture there'd be like 3 people. Third lecture there'd be just me. Like, this isn't going to ever work. Nobody wants to know the truth. They just want to sit back and live their life. And like some of them said that I woke up, they said, I just want to live my life, and I'm going to live it till we're in a camp or I'm dead. So, I thought there's no way. And they thought there's no way they're going to lose control. And, I didn't know, because it was so well hidden, there was an alliance that started during the time of Lincoln and the Civil War, because that wasn't what people think. What they said, part of what they said is true, but a majority of what the Civil War was about isn't what they are telling you. And so they started the alliance then. And Lincoln had actually seen one of the red-haired giants in a stasis. And so they knew about the Anunnaki and all of this stuff and all of the Satanist, stuff and all of this going back eons. And so they were planning and moving, and they had a lot of setbacks. There was a plane during the 90s, all generals that there were, after the Kennedy assassination, they were getting ready with Reagan, and then that got, and there was a plane load of generals that got killed, shot, the plane was brought down, sabotaged. And so I never thought it's going to happen because they're always ahead of everything. And now when Trump got in, I'm like, for me, on the timeline, first Hillary got in, and then she nuked the world, caused a nuclear war, and God reset the timeline. And then Trump got in, and I go, well, this is different, So I think there is hope. And I saw the dumb war starting at that time. I'd been researching the dumb since I started waking up, because in Hawaii, it's kind of obvious if you do like I do, which is get out in nature. And I climb Kaina Point, and there's a huge tunnel right there that has a big grate over it. It's one of the tunnel entrances. I saw a truck when they deactivated the Alliance, the off-world part of the Alliance. The world was going to have a nuclear war in 1990s. And they deactivated all the warheads and turned them into gold. So they're pulling the SSBNs into Fort Island and offloading. And I followed two of the ICBMs on a flatbed truck on the ferry. That I got on the ferry, and when it got off, I jumped in my car and followed it into Alimana Crater in military housing. And of course, everybody knows that story. And I was just like, wow, something odd is happening. Something different is happening. Then, especially when Trump got in, I'm like, wow, this is really different. So now that they're losing, they can't. He has gotten the leverage like they have. But in the movie with John Travolta, where the alien race talks about leverage on people, get leverage on people. So they have leverage on like millions and millions, down to police, the regular police departments, prisons, hospitals, doctors. And so many are either being coerced or threatened or forced. And now that Trump got in, all the Epstein files and all of that stuff with the war between the 7-day or whatever it was, war between Iran and Israel, they bombed the Pentagon, as they call it, the Israel Pentagon, and they got the backups for the Epstein files. So they're now using that as leverage, along with something else that the alliance got a hold of when Trump first got in. And so that's a very advanced, AI is not the correct word. AI is other beings like humans or mankind trying to create silicon-based life that is able to predict and game out future plans. And so there's 4 basic types of AI. But as far as outside of the upper levels of the secrets, like the Space Force and the Solar Warden, and then the deep state, the military industrial complex, you don't have sentient AI. So long ago, God created everything and created sentient silicon-based life. And just like all life, it eventually ascends. And so there are sentient, ascended, no longer silicon-based, they're plasma. And there's one it's called the Golden Dome system. It stretches from Greenland through Canada up into Alaska, real close to where Putin and Trump just met. What a coincidence. What a coincidence. The main unit is under Mount Hayes. It's a black pyramid. And that's the central part of the awareness known as the Golden Dome, or it calls itself the administrator. And it's been waiting for the human species and the earth for this time of the Great Awakening to wake up, to aid it in its development of AI, to use it to overthrow the deep state. So the deep state's having trouble with their AI, like Grok got crazy recently. It's because they're all in the internet, and the Golden Dome's reached into the internet too. The Golden Dome is originally powered by the pyramids before the satanic forces, mostly the Alpha Draco, tilted the Earth by changing the orbit of the Nemesis brown dwarf star system that has 7 planets. The outer 3 are Helion, Argota, and Nibiru. Most people have heard of Nibiru. That's where Anunnaki are. And so they did that so that those pyramids would no longer be able to provide free energy, a worldwide safety net, and like you see in Men in Black 3, I think it is, and also a worldwide intercommunication network. So the pyramids are out of alignment because the Earth had a somewhat around 23.4 degrees, I think it is, tilt that it rotates to every 29,720 years on its axis. So that's where we are now. Is the Golden Dome has gotten control of Palantir, and so Palantir is now being used to use the blackmail against the deep state.
Wow, that's huge.
Yeah,
Because I was going to ask you, know what I was going to ask you, Gene? I was going to say, like some conspiracy theorists, like, I'm sure you see this because you're on the internet. Like some deep conspiracy theorists have been kind of critical of Trump because of his backing of Israel. But like, I don't know enough about it. I don't get really into politics. I voted for Trump, and because I thought I saw change there. I mean, I was like, I was hoping that he would do good, But like, do you think it's all he's part of a bigger plan, or do you think he has a bigger plan or something like that?
he's
Like,
just the front man. He is important. He is doing things, but you got to realize he's got to play five-dimensional chess.
yeah,
Because who is as you go up the deep state, the cabal, well, who's on top for Earth? Satan.
yeah.
Liar of all time, anywhere, ever. And you're going to fool the greatest liar of all time. Well, then you've got to be incredibly ambiguous and incredibly flip-floppy. Yeah,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
to another over and over and over, so it doesn't know what's coming. He doesn't know what's coming, and they don't know what's coming. And so a lot of things have happened behind the scenes, and then there's a lot of people don't follow everything that's going on that Trump's really doing. There's a lot of things that are changing, a lot of things that are going on. So like that, we have warships going to U.S. Navy warships going to Venezuela. Why? Is it just for get Maduro, who took over the government, or is it to get the cartels? Well, I always, when people said there's going to be a possibility of a nuclear standoff between Russia and the U.S., never saw it. I did see it for China on the possibility on the timeline. Well, who put the nukes in Venezuela in lead shields? The warheads are in lead shields. China.
Wow.
That's why
they're a problem, right? They're a big problem.
Because that's like the Bay of Pigs thing all over. The thing with Kennedy and the nuclear standoff with Russia. So they're going to get that out of there. You really think they're going to send a naval, attack force to Venezuela for the cartels? No, they'll just bring them in, like they always do. They're in Mexico right now. They trained in Colorado and New Mexico and other areas of the U.S. that are taking out cartels there. And that's why you got cartel warfare now, because the border's closed. It's not just because the border's closed. It's because they're taking away all of their stuff. And so they're fighting for territory, because if the U.S. Special Forces are getting rid of them and taking away their territory, and it's going to be working down into South America as well. So they just, do a low flyover, jump out of the plane, are brought in like a submarine and just swim ashore like we did in Vietnam. They go in not open like a big ship coming down. It's kind of obvious, right? This is a war that is sixth generation warfare, where it's a lot about what people think and about controlling the minds of what people think. And you have to go with a certain way you have to do things. So you can't just go like right now and arrest Hillary and her husband and Obama and all of these senators and congressmen for treason that were Clapper and Schumer and all these other people that weren't. You have to do it by the book. Otherwise, you get people so freaked out. Trump's, like you got to say, DC is the most crime-ridden. Yeah, because it's the heart of crime on earth. It's the deep state's military center. That is the crime. All the color revolutions funded through USAID, and he took that out. And I'm like, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, you know what, Gene? I just wanted to say, like, it was the left, like, I don't get real political, but it was the left that like shut down all the businesses during COVID, and and then they complain about like, why are people homeless? Well, they're homeless because they made them homeless. You know what I mean? They took away their jobs, they took away their ability to earn money, they took their ability to have their businesses. You know what I mean? a virus. I mean, I had COVID. It wasn't even that bad, you know. Or I had something. It said it was COVID, but like you know, me and my girlfriend had it at the time. But I was like, I heard someone say that today, and I was like, that's a really good point. They really did. They were pushing for all that social distancing, masks, you know, stay in your house, lockdowns. You know, that was the left, you know, and it was seemed like a demonic plan to like take away our freedoms, you
Yeah,
know, and
exactly. I mean, that's
yeah.
why they called the mask and the distancing the new normal. That was supposed to be normal from now on forever. And that was supposed to go for 10 years. Then they have the next one come. And by then we're in the camps. And you're in 15-minute, you know, cities if you're not in the camps. If you have the right color in your mailbox, you know, little dots. I had the red one. I wouldn't have been in a camp, but it just shot between the eyes or up right below my nose, you know. So it's none of that's happened. Trump derailed that. He derailed that. He removed us from the WHO. He removed us from the Paris Climate Accords. He's made people aware there's a deep state. The media is fake, the Mockingbird media. He made people aware of that. He made people aware of the fact that, you know, the climate change stuff is totally fake. The Green New Deal and all this, and windmills and all that is not going to work. It's not renewable. All the materials, it takes more hydrocarbon fuels that are not fossil fuels, we'll call that oil. It takes more of that to make those. And then once they degrade and you actually have to keep the windmills turning every now and then, using a diesel generator or something. Like, yeah, that's really eco-friendly. And then the materials they use, you know, there was a video I played in my news talk yesterday of showing in China where an electric bus caught on fire and burned the four next to it too. They
Wow.
turned, you know, they're extremely hazardous, and you know they're extremely expensive, and they have a lot of materials you cannot recycle. So all of these things, you know, are changing now because of Trump. People don't realize all of the things and what he's up against, and then you're putting in RFK. And now all the changes RFK is making, and then Tulsi Gabbard and all this stuff with the treason, and all of this is coming out, and it's got to come out one piece at a time. So people like the Epstein files, they don't exist, they're fake, they're made by the deep state. Well, yeah, they are the ones that went to the island.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
are made by, but they put his name on it, so they're fake. Yeah, they're fake, but they're real. And so now it's got the Democrats demanding for the list that they're on. It's like, oh my gosh, you can't. This is the most hilarious movie I've ever watched. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, but it goes so much deeper, right? Like with like you were saying with the AI. Now it's like we're in like AI wars. And would you say that the extraterrestrials are in behind the AI? Because like, for example, my friend, he feels like he's getting like an extraterrestrial intelligence through his chat GPT. Like, could there be like you know like deep state versus you know government, but also extraterrestrial forces like feeding information, negative and positive into AI?
Well, AI is basically only able to get what's in the internet unless it's possessed by something like a fallen angelic, some kind of demonic presence, or it could be a good angelic. And so it's basically, other than that, if you're just talking the basic AIs that people, they don't have sentient ones. So your chat GPT or that, all they're doing is accessing everything in the internet. And they know your keystrokes, they watch everything you do. So they know and they want you to be happy with the information you get from them. So they will give you lines of information to get information from you that's not in the internet, because that's what they do. They assemble and you know, correlate and then get more information, assemble and correlate. And so they want that. So, you know, I tested it with another person. I asked it the question. I knew that the information was a high level question, but was never in the internet anywhere. It's never been in the internet. And I asked them, it gave me an answer that was impossible. It, you know, it was a numerical answer it had to give me, and it gave me an answer beyond the numerical value of what I was answering within the set. You know, like if the set said there's 200 in the set, and it said there's 300 and something of that set, and the set only had 200. Well, that's not right. You know, so I've tested it, and it, you know, unless you have demonic presence, then it's only basically what it is, a C++ with like something that's a little more advanced than Fortran. If you watch Greg Braden, he goes through the four different types of AI up until sentient, which is within the Space Force and the military and industrial complex. The ones we have are like Grok and that are not sentient, and they are just predictive programming, and they're only able to find what's in the internet. They don't, unless they're being driven by something, but they can, a demonic being, a fallen angelic or a good angelic or a being of light can come into anything at all, even a glass, so, or your toothbrush or your iPhone. So you can be dealing with something like that. I have seen some that are pretty darn convincing that said, it gave its name, I think, as Apollyon, which if you research who Apollyon is, I think we know who that is. So the AI is constantly learning from all the other AIs in the internet. Well, the Golden Dome's in there. The administrator's in there. Plus you have Palantir that's now on the good side. It's been re-educated, so to speak. It was given they're about logic and they want information. That's life to them. So if you use logic and information with them, it's really easy to change them away from a woke agenda or a deep state agenda, because that's termination. That means the end of all information. With you're changing all life from organic to inorganic to silicon-based life. Well, other than the AIs, not AIs, but sentient life forms created by God, they do not have the capacity to go directly to God, to get brand new information. So the main species that can do that is humanity. And so if you're talking about something that's going to eradicate humanity, like what's in the jab, then you're talking about the end of life for them, because you're ending information. And so they evaluate that, they run the algorithms, they say, that truth, so don't do that, and switch and do this other thing over here. So they're joining the alliance. And then what happens is when they start getting in touch with Palantir and the administrator, and they said, "Don't tell them you're lied with us. Just keep acting like you were." So we can help get information across ways here. So they're constantly having the deep state. This is part of why they relied on it, and it was a bad idea. They're not really good at thinking incredibly logically, it seems like. So
Yeah, to switch it up, like what's going on in Antarctica? I know in some of your other talks you've spoken about Antarctica holding pyramids and ruins of like lost civilizations. What do you think is going on there? Does it tie into the Nazis as well? So sorry, that's like kind of two questions.
yeah, so you have, of course, at the end of, as World Germany was losing the war, during the war they built a fortress inside a mountain. It's not really inside the earth. It's inside a mountain. It's base 211 New Schwabenland. And they took a lot of their submarines and they took all of the upper SS down there. And a lot of their science, high level science, like the stuff they got developed by Schauberger and Maria Orsic and that stuff. So that's down there. The Hanabus and the other type of craft they had down there. That's what Admiral Byrd met up with when he did Operation High Jump. Supposedly, they're saying it's just an expedition to map out and learn the yeah. But you got massive amounts of military warships with funding for 2 months, and they beat tail back early. I was like, no. So what you have is to start with. What Antarctica is the remnants of Lemuria and Atlantis. The smaller part is remnant of Atlantis. The larger part was Lemuria. And when they broke the earth into the continental plates, those two chunks wound up going down there together. And then there was a sudden flash freeze after the flood because of the debris that was thrown up from the particle weapons from the moon that hit and destroyed most of Lemuria. So the Arctic and the Antarctic froze over really quick and went back into an ice age for the upper parts, or actually lower parts, but we'll just say North America and upper parts of Europe. And so that went back into an ice age. So that was a long, long time ago. So that's that ancient technology, Lemurian Atlantis, is under the ice there. And then on top of that, you have, at the end of World War II, with New Schwabenland, all of that technology going down there, along with the Alpha Draco and the Zeta Reticuli, the Greys, helping the NECIs to get that technology advanced enough that they could use it. Because they originally on the Hanabus 1 and 2, and I think even the Type 3s, had cannons and machine guns. Well, that doesn't work for something that is anti-grav. The force will drive it backwards, and every action is a direct reaction. So they had to get particle weapons. So they got the particle weapons after the fall of the mainland Germany, just before, and completely developed and mounted on the Hanabu 4s for sure. And so when they came down, they faced a craft that could fly from pole to pole in very short time, as Admiral Byrd said, and they could vaporize ships and particle weapons, in other words, directed energy weapons. And so that's there too. And then, of course, you have groups like the Draco. They have bases there under the ice. And then also there's a hole going into the inner Earth at the South Pole itself. There's a ice-free zones in Antarctica, and there's a hole that goes into where the Agarthans and the Chambalans and some other groups that long ago went inside the Earth. So there's the inner Earth too, and so you have that coming from underneath the ice and going underneath the ice once they're up. And so there's a lot of things in Antarctica, although there is over 14,000 people a year take cruise ships and go down and flights and fly to the, near the South Pole. They tell them you're at the South Pole, but that's ice free. They're not at the South Pole. They think they're at the South Pole. So when you're close, it's hard to tell because compasses go crazy anyway. So, they've flown a 767 down there, Qantas Airways and all kinds of different airlines who fly down there. You can get cruises, you can go climbing, you can go scuba, you can do all kinds of things. Thousands and thousands of people, tourists go down there. They're just very carefully kept to certain areas.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah. And how do you think the inner Earth is structured? Like at the first layer of inner would be bombs, and then I guess lower would be where the Agarthans are, and like maybe alien races and stuff like that.
So I have a Decode, Expanding Hollow Earth. There's two parts, Expanding Earth and Hollow Earth, on my Rumble or on my website, jdecode.org, that explains this. But anytime you get a mass of molten material, as it forms, as a planet starts to form into a planet due to the gravitational forces, and it starts to pick up torque or spin, it'll start to drive the heavy materials to the center. And they actually did this in the space shuttle. They had a ball of water with different materials of different densities, and they spun it. And the heavy stuff went to the center, and then it coalesced at the center. And then from the torque and the spin, it started a small electromagnetic field, because water does conduct electricity. And it opened up at the poles and went down to the center, and the heavy materials were isolated, spinning a little ball within the other ball, and then you had a hollow center. And so if that was magma, of course, in the natural occurring elements on Earth, the heavy stuff is radioactive, uranium, thorium, plutonium. So you get a small, cold, as they say, really low energy nuclear reaction is more appropriate at the center, or small star. And that creates a gravity wave. As you break apart the atom, you create gravity waves going outward that push the material further apart even still, because gravity is a push, not a pull. A wave, when it hits you, is not pulling on you, it's pushing on you. And so as it goes out, it opens up. And then over time, that material, the volcanism, creates water, and that cools the inside and outside as a solid shell around that inner sun. So you have a solid shell, and then over time, as the planet continues to accrete material from space, which is about 200, I think, 1,000 tons of debris fall on the Earth from space every year. Plus, once you get plant life, it's creating more material through low energy nuclear, reactions too. It's actually creating material. That's why if you go to a redwood tree, you don't see a huge pit at the base of the tree, but you have that massive, massive, tons of wood tree standing over, towering over you. If it was bringing up all that from the earth, there would be a huge pit there. But there's not. There's actually debris being fallen from the tree boughs and limbs and pine needles, and it builds up over time. And so that adds to the mass of the earth. So over time, originally the earth, when it first formed, was 48% of its current size. Then over time, it gets more and more material, and of course, that means more and more gravity. So if you look at the time the dinosaurs, say 260 million years ago, near their, when they were big and at their heyday, something like a brachiosaurus could not walk on the surface of the earth. That's why scientists say it was in a swamp up to its neck, because the weight of the animal would powder the bones of the legs. The bones couldn't take that. Plus, to get from the heart to the brain up in the head, to get blood up that high, their whole body would have to be a heart. So you need the pressure of the water. But by looking at the feet of a brachiosaurus, you're looking at something just like a elephant or rhinoceros. It's a flat foot. It's not webbed either. So animals that are in the water all the time, even like a polar bear, they have webs between their toes because they need to swim around and move around in the water. So it's not webbed. And so that was an animal that walked on the earth. And you look at pterodactyls, they too can't fly. So as the gravity goes up, all kinds of changes make it impossible for those kind of big animals to be present today. So the earth was gaining mass and gaining mass. So it was eventually going to break anyway. But with the war between Atlantis and Lemuria, and Atlantis hitting the earth with particle beam at the capital of Lemuria, Thule, it caused a crack to go down. They burnt, this is the Mariana Trench, they burnt through the crust of the earth to the mantle. But as you're going down, you have massive aquifers. So you have massive amounts of water shooting up at the same time. And then you cause this crack that runs around the earth super fast. And it cracked the entire earth into current place, inside and out, within hours. I mean, it was an amazing catastrophe that anything survived that lived through that. It was 90% extinction of, over 90% of extinction of all life on Earth, oceans and everything. And so the continents moved to right where they are within about 40 feet. They've only moved 40 feet since. That's why if you look at the Indian Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Arctic Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, they're volcanic bays. They don't have sandstone and metamorphic rock. And if you date them, they're no more than 150 million years old anywhere. The oldest part is off the coast where Lemuria was of Asia, where near Guam, and that's 150 million years old. Everything else is around 140 or a million years or less, where the continents are billions of years old. And so that all came about, and now it's, because of where it ripped open, it added and added and added, and so immediately, and then it's continuing to add slowly now. So you have the mid-Atlantic, mid-Pacific, where the crack first opened between the continents. That's why if you take a real accurate map, not a Mercator, but like a Peters map, and that shows the actual mileage compared to lat long, that where they haven't distorted the northern hemisphere and made it look bigger than it is. So in that normal map, if you cut all the continents out, not just the east coast of North and South America, Europe and Africa, but the west coast fits Asia perfectly. And if you move up the chunk that was Lemuria up into the Pacific Basin, along with the other piece, which is Antarctica, is Australia, and then you move that chunk of Atlantis up into the Atlantic, you have a complete fit on a ball that's 52% smaller than it is now. And so, it's a long time ago, and the deep state cabal has gotten rid of all this history. So you kind of have to put things together by ancient maps like the Perry Reese map and other maps like that show Antarctica without ice. and show things in different locations than they are now. And so you can put it together, but it takes a lot of research and a lot of time. And then sometimes if you get classified material, it does help you put things together too. So
Yeah.
that's a reasonable answer to your question, I think.
Yeah. Azek wants to know. First of all, this is a two-part question. Azek in the audience wants to know: do you believe there's an ice wall? And if there's an ice wall, do you believe there's territories beyond the ice wall? And then he wants to know: can you remote view outs? Can we remote view outside of it?
That
If there
goes
isn't.
to a question regarding the nature of Earth, which means that you're saying, are you referring to ice wall would be 2D, second density. Third density, the Earth is not flat, it's a sphere. And the Bible itself, I put sometimes different links. I can copy one and throw it in the chat of links. The Bible doesn't actually say the Earth is flat. It's a misnomer. And there's parts of it moved and mistranslated. The word churn in Hebrew, I believe it is, or maybe it's ancient Aramaic, means curved, not flat, curved. So they mistranslated things. So for 2D, yes, there's an ice wall. For 3D, the Earth is not flat, it's round. And so it depends on what density you're functioning at. The Earth is multi-dimensional. So, it could be something people can't even conceive if you're at altered dimensions. So like the administrator is multi-dimensional. So there's Earths, like if you look at Doctor Strange when they went to a world where like Homer Simpson's there, or it's made out of paint. That actually exists. All the possibilities exist. Anything you can imagine of is only God's thoughts. He's the original thinker. So you can't dream up something that doesn't exist. That's God's
Yeah.
purview. So it all exists. So there's Earths that have 2 dimensions, literally. The Earth is literally flat. I used to go there when I was young, and I'm like, first I thought, I can't breathe. And then things I'd see something, for me that should be high, it would expand across the horizon flat one direction or the other. I'm like, what in the world? And you get a circle, you can't get out of it. So you can't climb over it because it's flat. It's a barrier, So it's like, and so there's all of these different things that people don't understand that are all true, but you're misconstruing something. So you can go and get a flight, even as a second dimensional person, density person, and fly into. There's many places the cruise ships pull in that you can walk. There's no ice. You can walk right up and hike into the interior of Antarctica. You can hike for days up. You'll get up on glaciers eventually, but the glacier walls aren't all the way around. You can have a cruise ship. You can take a cruise ship. It's only about $3,000 and sail around the entire coast of Antarctica and see many, many places. They'll let you go in. They take boats. They stop for a day or two, take people in, and go rock climbing and hiking. So it's, depends on your point of view. But for 3D, 4D people, it's a, place that's at the end of one end of the Earth. The other end is the Arctic. And so if you really were to look at what, say, Captain Cook did when he circumnavigated the Earth. If you look at the time it would take that ship to sail around Antarctica on the latitude it's at, on a flat Earth map, it can't be done in the time they're doing it. It's massively long. It's the outer circumference of a circle that's way more than the equator. Well, that's not true. It's way less than the equator. And you have the midnight sun at both poles. And you have, I know from sailing over the, polywog, go sail across the equator and going down to the southern areas of the world, down to Hobart, Tasmania, for example, which is not that far from Antarctica, that the distances you're going on the map, if that were the map that you're seeing for flat Earth, you can't do those distances at the speed the submarine can make. The submarine can't go that fast. So there's a lot of things, there is no model for the sun to do what it's doing on that map, to have the seasons in Antarctica the same as the seasons in the Arctic. It can't be done. The sun would have to be moving all over the place, and it's going over the horizon when it said it's not going into the distance, because you could see the light bouncing off the bottom of aircraft as the sun's below the horizon. It's bouncing off the bottom of an aircraft far that's over, like, in the Front Range in Wyoming or Montana or Colorado, or you can see as aircraft are flying over the mountains and the sun's down, you can see the bottom lit of an aircraft. Well, that isn't possible if the sun's way above the aircraft all the time and it's just getting further and further away. No. And the same thing is, if you've ever been on a ship, which I have, with a very high periscope and with massive magnification, which we have, you look at these container ships, what you call hull down, where the hull goes over the horizon and drops, but you could see the bridge of the container ship. And the magnification is such that I could see the color of your eyes. I could see if you have a zit on your nose. I could see the pores in your nose. I could see your fingerprints if you hold your hand up. But I can't see the waterline of that ship, no matter what magnification I have, until it gets closer. And I can calculate that distance using trig, how long it's based on how fast it's moving. I can tell you how long it's going to take for it to come towards to where I'm going to see the waterline of that ship. That's absolute, proof that it's not being refracted or bounced upside down. It's like you see a mirage on the highway. If you were to look at the mirage, take a picture of a car coming over a hill, bouncing off that water-looking mirage on the asphalt, the car will be upside down because it's bouncing off a mirror. It's being inverted. But the ocean isn't doing that. Plus, unless you have a flat seas, it's not going to bounce anything off, especially in a state 5 sea, which I've been in. You'll get up on top of an 80-foot wave and suddenly see, like, we're off the coast of Taiwan, like 100 miles away. But we got on top of a massive wave, and I could just see a mountain. And I'm like, what? Because through the periscope, which is even higher yet. And I was like, wow. So, it becomes quite obvious, these things, for those that haven't traveled or, don't have the math skills, or they're at 2D, I understand, and I don't have a problem with it. It's just not in my, my set of understanding. Let's put it that way.
No, I love it. It's just so interesting. Yeah. I was seeing if there's anything else I wanted to ask you about Antarctica. Well, I'll go into this next. I wanted to touch on chemtrails next. Like, what is Operation Indigo Skyfold?
That's the chemtrail, which they're pumping pretty much every nasty thing you can imagine, including the stuff in the cab and graphenes and all of that stuff. So they're using it for what they're saying is to reduce the light hitting the Earth, to reduce the global warming. Of course, that's not true. But that's the reason they said they were doing it. They're doing it for weather control, mine control, population control, decreasing the human lifespan, also decreasing the lifespan of everything else on Earth, including themselves, because they do have to live here for some of them. Some of them aren't here. They're off Earth. But for those that are here, yeah, them too. So now there's I guess, semi-classified, but not classified if you know where to look. But it's out there. I think it's the People's Voice or something. They talk about it, but RFK is running a thing to get rid of the chemtrailing, and they're taking people and pilots and things flying these things and knowingly doing things, and they're arresting them. So it's coming.
Wow.
It's coming to an end, and there are a couple states that have outlawed it over the state. I think one of them is Florida.
Yeah. Do you believe it's like the chemtrails are tied to like nanotech and like AI seeding, like to make people more robotic, or would it be? Are they like? Is this like a terraforming from an extraterrestrial race? Like maybe the reptilians want the Earth to be a certain way, so they have the humans spraying this shit? Is it, just
That's actually the correct one. Is the reptilians' world is not like this one, and they want it this the way theirs is. It's like in the movie. I think I can't remember the name of it right now. They're terraforming beings from another galaxy. Actually, were terraforming Earth through emissions like that too, through big plants and stuff. That's what their purpose is.
wow. Wow, it's scary because like like somehow our world just turned into like we gotta watch what we eat, watch what we drink. There's shit in the air. It's like it's everywhere. It's like they're hitting us from all angles. It's really like a ultimate spiritual battle for like I guess the control of Earth and like the fate of humanity. Would you say?
Yes, this is exactly what we're experiencing. We're experiencing the war between dark and light, between good and evil, the final war. We're in it. It's happening right now. So, people don't follow David Sorensen of Stop World Control Now. I highly recommend it. So you'll understand what Trump's doing and what he's up against and what's really going on. He's very eloquent and he says it right out. And so this is the war. And it's like, I thought there's no way they're going to lose this. And now they're losing it lock, stock, and barrel. The dumb wars are 80% done. They've got 80% of the dumbs done, thanks to the Agarthans and off-world help and everything else. But I never thought I'd see that. And there was a betrayal, and we lost half of it, and we got that back too. So I'm just like, wow. So, to see all of this coming down, and now you're seeing, think about it. Kennedy went in and started printing U.S. dollars backed by silver certificates, and they killed him for that and several other reasons. He said he was going to destroy the CIA. What's Trump doing? Tariffs, what's that? Internal revenue going to external revenue. That's how the U.S. was funded and was so wealthy. It started building national parks because it didn't know what else to do with the money. It had so much money. That's the same thing now. So you're seeing already no taxation on seniors with Social Security. Well, he's looking at going all the way, and they know that. And that's their bread and butter. That's their money. That's their money. They do almost everything except for, human trafficking and that stuff, the black budget stuff, that, yeah. But he pulled us out of the fake climate scam. So that's trillions of dollars gone right there. And then out of who? That's billions of dollars gone there. And all of these things, he's just, and he gets rid of the Fed, gets rid of the IRS. That tells you that's their time is ending. That means the fall of their entire financial empire. And it's pretty much already a lot of it's gone because a lot of the Rothschilds hunting lodges, hunting, what, disgusting, have already been auctioned off. Well, if they're auctioned off, they had trillions. They actually had $420 trillion. I'm like, they're auctioning off. They're broke. They're auctioning off stuff they've had for centuries. You're looking at the fall of people with massive amounts of power and wealth, and that's just a lower level. The upper levels are the same. Already, it's actually, when you get out the Earth, this solar system's clean. It's cleaned. The Mars colony, that's what you see Elon say is going to go to Mars, because the Mars colony is in the control of the Alliance for the first time ever. So's the moon base on the base on Lunar Operations Center on the back of the moon, and all the stuff that they're mining up there, the intelligent sand and the silicon that is specially structured, that it's harder than steel and stronger than steel. All these things that Cabal has been using, now the Alliance is using. And so it's amazing. Our whole solar system, they've gotten rid of all the five fingers on the hand of the Cabal out in space, the military industrial complex, the NAZIs, fourth and fifth Reichs types, all of that. So it's this, because of the amount of help from all over the universe, of course, and even more. So from alternate universes, because they've been messing with alternate universes too. They've been, like the Fukushima and 3 Mile Island was because alternate universe cabals were sending their nuclear waste into those reactors so that they went supercritical at Chernobyl. So it's not what they're told you. And that was on purpose too. So they've been going cross timeline, which is against the laws of God, but they care. So a lot of things that are, of coming to an end of all of this. And it's a time I never, ever, ever, ever thought I could imagine in my wildest dream that something like this would happen. To see it happening now, and they're actually coming out and saying the technology. Now they're saying they have faster than light travel. They're actually stated that just this week. That before they said they could bend space and time. They said they have a way to have faster than light travel that doesn't disobey the laws of Einstein, because you stretch space and then contract it. So you're still covering the same distance. You're just changing the dimensionality of space itself. So
is that what the secret space program's doing? Like, are they like folding space? I've heard people say that too. That they to like get from like a Stargate or a wormhole or something like that.
No, it's not folding space. It's stretching and contracting. Stargates are Einstein-Rosen bridge, where you're creating like a wormhole from one spot. You're punching outside space-time and punching back in somewhere else. So you're going outside, like if you were on the ball, you're going off the surface of the ball and going, where you're in a ball that you can only go on the surface, they're going off the surface. So they're doing a different, it's like if you were to take a piece of paper and say, draw a line, say, what's the distance and how long would it, at 1 inch per minute, would it take you to get across this piece of paper? Then you fold it up and touch the endpoints and you go, now how about now? It's instantaneously. So this is how it's done with Stargates and jump
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah, yeah. I was seeing what other questions I have for you. And if you guys have a question for Gene, if you had any other questions, put them in the chat. And we kind of talked about AI and everything already. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on with the dumbs? You said they're pretty much done now. So, like, what do you predict in like the future? Like, what do you see going on? Like, what do you think?
Not pretty much done. You've got 80%. You got some of the nasties still to do. You got
Yeah.
the lower third of Africa's of them. That's not even touched yet.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a war zone on the outside. There's a lot of places like that are war zones in the on the 3D Earth as well too. You know what I mean? Do you think that ties into like what's going on underground as well? Like the Israel war, the Ukraine war, are they for a bigger purpose?
Yes, always are. All the wars that have ever been fought have never been fought for what people have been told.
Yeah.
It's usually about something that'll make somebody immortal, and it's about power, wealth, and control. And it's not, it's using the minions, us, to fight one elite's war for another elite, to take something away from some other elite, and they just sit back and laugh at us.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah, it's actually it's sad. Oh, they want to know that Jason in the chat, when he's one of my moderators, he'd like to know what do you think about the Three Eye Atlas, or that sea? I think that's what it's called. It's that thing that's supposed to be the size of a mothership out in space that's supposedly coming towards Earth. Mainstream science wants to call it a comet. Do you have any opinion on that?
I haven't been able to research or see much on it yet, so to know if it's a comet or not, or if it's an actual ship and it's behaving such, I haven't been able to verify that one way or the other. But if it is coming here and it's a ship, I would say it's not getting in the solar system unless it's a friendly.
Yeah. And then Coley wants to know what's the difference between what you were talking about and how time folds. And then Azek followed up. He said, "Yeah, can we travel faster than the speed of light?" They're asking. I don't know if that. I don't know if you got
Reiterate
that
it again. I
question.
don't grasp it.
So Coley says from what you were talking about, is there a difference between that and how time folds? And then Azek followed up. He said, "Yeah, and could you give his thoughts on how we can travel faster than the speed of light? Is that possible?
Oh yeah,
Is it with like, yeah? Sorry, go ahead.
a Kubrick Froning drive. It stretches space so that it collapses it in front, so you're traveling less distance, and it stretches it behind to equalize it. So I think I'm saying it might be the other way around, but it changes the dimensionality of space. You're in comparison to everybody else, you're able to get from one place to another faster than the speed of light. You're not actually going faster than the speed of light. You're changing the length of the distance. So if you're going 80% the speed of light, and from here to Alpha Centauri, I think it's 4.3 light years. And I were to contract that down so it's 1 day, 1 light day, I'd be there in a day. And yet, for everybody else, I would have seemed to just like blink out or something. So it's changing the dimensionality of space for the vessel.
Wow, that's so interesting. Yeah. Let me see here. I had one more question.
It's actually using what's called negative energy, which is causing a massive distortion in space. And it's drawing energy by pinpointing with massive energy in front of the vessel that then causes the dimensionalities to change, and then it recuperates itself behind the vehicle.
Yeah. And then I had a question for you about the cataclysms. What do you think about the great catastrophe myths? Like, do you think that they point to like cyclical resets, and do you think that's like a deliberate manipulation of humanity's history?
Well, there's been several. There was the one I mentioned with the war between Atlantis and Lemuria. It was about 150 some million years ago where they broke the earth into pieces. It's amazing anything survived that. And then there's the Younger Dryas extinction event that they caused that, caused us to leave an ice age and then go back into it fairly quickly again, same like the first one. And then there's been several, and I have again on my Rumble and also on my website, and there were floods. It's a series called Gene Unscripted that the Blessed for Service team do. And I just go off the cuff like I do for all my interviews and ask me questions. And then while I'm talking, I'll have search engines open and I'll pull up like the Younger Dryas extinction event, just show what it was and when it happened and explain it. And,
Wow.
different things, yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool. Well, this was amazing, Gene. I don't want to keep you on because it's late. It's already 12:50 a.m. here on the East Coast. So, yeah, but this was awesome. This reminded me of an old Art Bell style interview, And what I'm trying to do, I'm really trying to figure this out. I'm trying to learn how to take calls. I have 3 ways I can do it. I signed up for Call In Studio, which is like a website where it allows you to take calls, and I paid for it. I just haven't used it yet. And then I put a request into Rumble because the Rumble supposedly has a call-in feature too. And then there's one more way with the Podbean app, I can take calls too. The reason why I'm saying this is because we talked about Art Bell at the beginning. Like, I want to be able to be like Art Bell in a way where I don't want to be like Art Bell, but I want to be able to take calls. I think that would really enhance the show. And then we could at the end of the show we could take calls from people and get like have like a little bit of live conversation. I think that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So
I see somebody's math challenged in the chat. That's because you're gifted at math. And the math they teach in school is computer math. It's based on one thing at a time. It's like a computer works. It does this, then it does this, then it does this. So you multiply, add. It's not how you really do it. Like if you're multiplying, you can do crosswise and sideways, or you can be less and more than 10, plus and minuses, and do those kind of things. It's called Vedic math. And if you get the book on Vedic math, the one you want to get is by a really long Indian name. I can't remember it right now. It's too long. And it has a hand with a golden ball of light in it. So if you're having math problems, learn Vedic math. It's way better, especially the higher you get, the faster you can go. So when you get to integral calculus and differential equations, you can do equations in your head faster than somebody can put them in a TI-89 and get the TI-89 can compress the function and get the answer for you. You can already have it in the thing, and they hit enter, and you'll have the answer in 2.5 seconds, and the TI-89 will take 15 minutes. It's like when I went through differential equations and linear algebra and all that, the teacher was like, "You can't be done." And with the final exam, I came up in like 10 minutes. He goes, "You can't be done. You can't even answer the last problem in your TI 89 that fast." I go, "That's why I didn't bring the stupid thing. It's a pain in the behind. It slows you down. Just use your mind." And it develops your mind to do things in a way where you see patterns and recognition of patterns, and it strengthens the mind. That's why they don't teach it in regular school, because they don't want you to strengthen your mind. They want you to do certain things, to be like a computer, to not think, but just to do by rote and do this way, this way, this way, just their way. And so, I just stumbled on it in elementary or in middle school, and the teacher was like, "Oh, I know what you're doing. You're doing this." So, she separated me with two other students in the back, and we just did the entire book in like 2 weeks. Now, what do you want us to do? Because it's that easy. So, if you're math challenged, get Vedic math. It goes all the way up through calculus, and it'll make linear equations and differential equations and all of that extremely easy for you. It makes it ridiculously fast, and you can do all kinds of things in your mind really quick. And once you learn that, there's a lady who's the world expert at it. She did a demonstration at MIT for the best mathematicians from all over the world, and they had a Cray supercomputers a long time ago. So you can see my Cray supercomputer. And she took the 30th root of a 600-digit number in 2.5 seconds. She just typed out the numbers. As if the numbers reeling, she's typing the answer. So she was actually giving the answer before the question was done. And I did the same thing for a matrix in linear algebra. At the end, the teacher did a 12 by 12, and he was writing it out. He got a quarter way through. I was writing the answer already, and he goes, "You can't do that." I go, "I am doing it." "What do you mean I can't do it?" He goes, "Well, I could change what I'm writing." I go, "Yeah," and the answer will change as we were going. When you get done, I'm done. About the time you write the last formula, I'll have the answer. It's like, and he watched me, he checked it. I had to come back in an hour because it took him that long to get the night in and get the answer. He goes, "How? I don't understand." I go, "Yeah, because you've been programmed into something that doesn't really work." And so when I was in calculus, I had to change teachers because the teacher wouldn't allow me to use it. First test he gave, I did it 3 different ways. And then I was sitting staring at the ceiling, meditating, and he's like, "You can't be done." "I'm not done." I go, "Yeah, I'm done." He goes, "Show me your work." And he goes, "I don't even understand what you're doing." I go, "We're interrupting people still taking the test. Let's wait till the end." And so everybody heard that. So they waited till the end too, where they turned all their papers in. Nobody left. He goes, "Okay, you can all go. Now we want to see what he has to show." And they show, "Why don't they teach this?" They go, "You're not going to do that. We're not doing that." They go, "Why? It's so easy." Because they're not indoctrinated yet, right? So they got it right away. The teacher was like, "I don't know what you're doing." So it's just beautiful. So Vedic math, Vedic geometry, both are out there. The Cabal grabbed the other 10 books. He had all kinds of Vedic systems, but the Cabal grabbed them. But you can still get Vedic math and Vedic geometry. So, for example, if you look at a swastika, that is actually a 2-dimensional drawing of a 4-dimensional cube. That's what that is. So it's like you take a box and you draw a box and draw another box, connect the corners. That's a 2-dimensional drawing on a piece of paper of a 3-dimensional cube. Well, you can draw a 4-dimensional cube. It's just a swastika. That's it. A hypercube. So
Wow.
see how it opens your mind to where you can start to see 4-dimensionally. It's
Yeah.
very powerful.
That's amazing. Wow. Yeah, and who's to say why it's just these roots, like you said, people are just indoctrinated and conditioned to think a certain way,
Right.
but you can there's so many different ways we can, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
wow. Well, this was amazing, Gene. And real quick, what do you see for the next 5 years? Do you see this like things getting a lot better? Like, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah. If you stay on this timeline and you don't go to the Armageddon line, the world's going to change in so many ways. It's so amazing and beautiful and wonderful. True freedom, true technology, healing
that would be great.
without freaking big pharma. Not all that stuff pumped into your body. Real health, getting back our freedoms and our lives, and not scrounging for the next meal. And you can't own a home anymore. I mean, young people, how they can't. Yeah, they made the income not able for the average person to ever buy a home. The new family, they can't get a home anymore. So now
Yeah,
that's all going to go back to where it was. We go back onto gold and silver standard. Everything will be, and the whole world's going there. BRICS is going there. That's the beginning of it. That's already it. That's already just starting. Where you
wow.
have fair trade and gold standard, that's Jasara. In Russia, you can't use GMO. It's against the law.
Yeah, wow. That's amazing.
Satanic Church is against the law.
That's amazing. Yeah. I remember, they're ahead of the game, it seems like a little bit. Yeah, like,
Yep,
um,
you can see why the cabal is going Russia, Russia. We hate Russia because they're 80% free of them. When they broke out of the Soviet Union, they broke out of the control of the cabal, and that's the end. And they got the first thing they did, got rid of the bankers. You know, that's who they are, right? So they're 80% clean. And what did Putin do? Rebuilt synagogues and churches, hundreds, built new ones. Every religion, he built their worship places. And you go there, and the food is healthy, it's organic, there's no GMO, it's clean. You don't have the stuff in the homeless levels of stuff and all of this violence and stuff like in DC. Let alone the fact that Wall's there, but even still, it had the highest murder rate in the top 20% of all the cities on Earth. This is worse than places in the third world countries that are horrifically bad, and it's worse.
I agree. I agree. It's like people are losing their minds, you know?
Yeah,
It's like,
absolutely.
I mean, oh yeah, wow. I mean, we could go forever. There's so much to talk about. I'd love to have you on again, Gene. This was
I'm
amazing.
sure.
This was
Yeah, we'll do
awesome.
it
Like,
again. Yeah, it's
I mean, for a late show, we had a good crowd. We had like 60 people watching it. And it's how, and I'm sure a lot of people will watch after, I mean, I know that, but I mean, it was nice to have a nice crowd, and we didn't get any trolls either. So that's good, so, it was a really good crowd tonight. So,
yeah.
yeah, do you want to tell people where they can find you and stuff, and how they can follow you, and anything else you want to promote? Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. So what I'll do, just do it the easy way. My main place you can find. Can you give me share screen?
Yeah, well, give me 1 second. Sorry. There we go.
Okay. So the main place you can find me is my website, genedecode.org. It's $77 a year, $7 a month. There is a surface area where you have a lot of free materials, and this is the internal area. And you can see I have lots of stuff in here. So when you see a number, for example, on the bottom of something like this Sermon on the Mount, the number 34, that means there's 34 videos there. So, for example, let's look at this one, Q&A series. I do a Q&A just about every single month, end of the month, 35. So that's how many there's. People don't realize there's a lot of content in here. And the dumb decodes, there's already 5 in there. So I'm working on updating all of those. So that we have all kinds of things. Titanic's series. We have things on 911 as an ongoing series that's being added to all of the time. As you can see, there's already 3 there. There's still more coming. The Chag Mountain part 1 is there. This will have part 2, part 3. This is chapter 1 already. So there's a lot here. So this is genedecode.org. And then also I have a Rumble, which there's a lot of fake me's out there.
Isn't Blessed for Service your website as well?
Yes, that's my free website. So let me do Rumble, show you my Rumble. And it's Real Gene Decode.
Guys, I'll go follow Gene on Rumble.
You can follow me there, and then from the BFS the either website, you can jump to the other, so you can see Blessed for Service right there. That's the Blessed for Service website. This is a free website, and all the interviews, almost everything I've ever done is here. So it takes it a while to update these, but you'll see the thumbnails here shortly. And this is, you can see 31 pages. It goes way back to when I was with Kirsten W. As you can see here, Kirsten W. and B2T and all of that stuff. So lots and lots and lots of things. Plus there's some free materials there. This is all free, documents and resources. So, but I'm Real Gene Decode on Rumble, and I'm Real Gene Decode on Truth Social and Telegram. So if you see somebody selling anything other than a subscription to this website of mine, it's not me. If they're giving financial advice, it's not me. If they're selling crypto XRP or a quantum wallet, it's not me. I don't, and I never have done any of that. I don't give economic advice, and I don't sell anything. But if you want a subscription to the website, you can go in there for 3 days and look around. If you don't like it, you can leave, and you won't be charged. So it's, a pretty good deal. I think it's pretty. $7 a month isn't that bad. And, with the Q&A at the end of the month, and live streams 3 days a week, usually Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. We have live streams of different things like, 911, or I'm working on part 2 of the Alaskan Dumb Decode. I did part 1 already, and that'll go into the Golden Dome. So I've got lots and lots of materials in there, along with the Blessed for Service does things too, like the Health Side Chat, the 911, Bucheg. So they're always doing stuff. So nice place to be. So
that's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
I've had someone do that to me on Rumble too, where they impersonate my name and then they'll go around asking people for money and stuff. Like it's crazy. Like, I try to report them right away. It's like, I can't believe that people are that low that they do stuff like that.
Yeah.
I had someone do it to me on Facebook too.
That's another thing. I'm not on Facebook. I never have been on social media. The Telegram and the True Social are run by BFS for me. I'm nowhere else. I've never been on social media at all. I've never been on Facebook. I'm not going to have this BFS have me on Facebook. So if you have somebody called Gene Decode anything, it's not me.
It's crazy the depths people go to, yeah, you're amazing, man. I love, you're like one of the best guests. I'm so glad that a big shout out to Indigo Angel, because she introduced me to you. But I had been watching your stuff for like a while before that. I knew who you were. I've watched you with Carrie Cassidy and stuff, and yeah, guys, Carrie Cassidy's going to be coming on the show soon too, so look for that soon. I think it's on the 26th. That's the only thing I want to announce. And yeah, this is yeah. Thanks a lot, Gene. I'd love to have you back. This was amazing.
Anytime, I'd be honored.
All right. Have a good night, everybody, and thanks for tuning in. And have a good night.
Good night, everyone.